COT's base of operations is right here at thecouncilofTime.com. COT has no other outlet or venue. These are other folks who will rebroadcast. Anything COT does is by the main page here at thecouncilofTime.com. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Let's get started, shall we? Good to see you guys, by the way. Let me give you guys a status update. Right now, Israeli Defense Forces report that Hamas leadership has been eliminated. That's one goal. Hezbollah is asking in a very Middle Eastern way something that translates into a ceasefire. The actual word I won't say, but it means, they used a word that means we recognize our enemy, right? And it's a very, this is coming from Hezbollah leadership. Now, Hezbollah is the biggest terrorist organization in the Middle East, just so you guys know that. They're asking for a ceasefire. Now, that may sound good, right? But just today, indiscriminate firing from Hezbollah took place in an Arabic Christian city in the north, and this continues. So they're doing indiscriminate firing at civilians. The call of Hezbollah was to Israeli civilians as well as leadership. And another leader in Hezbollah said the only solution to this conflict would be a ceasefire. So clearly, Hezbollah has been rattled. They need to readjust. Right? Sounds good, right? Sounds good. Of course, Israel has been through this before. Historically, this has happened before. And every time this happens, they end up back at square one some years later. What Israel wants to do is to have the ending in such a way that they don't have to revisit this type of conflict again. So they really have to, in their thinking, Israeli Defense Forces, they have to, many of them want to put their foot on the gas to get rid of the problem, right? So it doesn't come back. Hezbollah has lots of rockets. They can, by way of attrition, drag this thing out, drag this conflict out for years. They could fire dozens of rockets and sophisticated rockets towards Israel for years. Years. They have most of the rockets, most of the money, right? And this is besides Israel. So, that's where we stand right now, of course. So let's look at the reality of it. I like prophecy, right? I will always like prophecy because in all my years of life, the only thing that has ever had the outcome of absoluteness were those things that were anchored in prophecy. Everything else failed. Objectives failed. Outlooks failed. Forecasts failed. What people thought would happen, right? Never happened. But everything written in the Bible always came out to be just like it was written in the Bible. We make mistakes in our interpretation. But today, the Bible has never mistakenly named both the beginning of events and the end of an event. Never. So it has my vote all the time. I really do trust in prophecy. I do. I don't trust in interpretation, right? And that's not to offend anybody, but I trust in prophecy. I always pray for understanding, insights into what's happening by way of the word. I never assume that somehow I've become an expert in it. God's an expert in his own word. I am not. And to date, most people have not been either. They get close, but that's not being expert. The more you observe prophecy and the more you see how it unfolds, the better your interpretation of prophecy is going to be. But you must examine how it's unfolded over the years, right? And then you'll have an idea, because God has made it so that we can know him. Number one, he is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. So he does things the exact same way all the time. All the time. So by analysis, if we can see how things unfolded in prophecy, we can know how the Lord is working. And in this case, an ugliness is forming. This has happened before. In fact, I'm somewhat taken back, because it's amazing how it's not really noticed. The same situation has happened before. It has a biblical footprint, and that means a biblical footprint is when in the ancient past something just like the situation today has happened before, and it's unfolding just like it did before. It is. So, folks, ladies and gentlemen, where's Mixler? Okay, there you are. You guys in Mixler, just for a second, I want you guys to make sure that you let me know if your sound totally drops out. Okay? Let me know that. Anyway, back to the conversation. Having said that about the footprint, we're going to examine some prophecy today, which will be contrary to what, it must be included in your outlook of prophecy, period. Here's one thing we do. And of course, we can't help but to do this. But I'm talking about humanity does this. We will read prophecy from one book, and we'll say that's it, right? But then when you read prophecy that seems on the surface contrary to other prophecies, most people, they pick one or the other. I've learned not to do that. If we read all the prophecies, right, they overlap. One will give us an in-depth direction, right, into the other prophecy, and vice versa. They all fit perfectly together. Each set of prophecies gives us insight into a specific heart or perspective, right? In fact, prophecies spoken by Daniel are seen from the Israeli side, right? This is what's going to be seen from those who live in that land, and some on the outskirts. Prophecy seen in Revelation give us global coverage. This is what the world will see. Prophecies given by Christ, again, global coverage with an emphasis on prophecies specifically for those in Jerusalem. Right? So if you take all that together, Proverbs, Ezekiel, Isaiah, all of it together, you have a total picture. So with a little homework, a little study, making sure that nothing is altered, that nothing has changed, you get a pretty good picture, a good image, a good roadmap of what's actually taking place and what will take place and what the outcomes are. The outcome is always going to be the same. The method by which the outcome is reached, well, that's what people want to know. Because I can almost guarantee you guys want to know what's going to happen next. What will this lead to? How is it going to affect me? The common questions, right? As a Christian, as a believer, I think it's important that you know why this is taking place. Because did you know the Father gives us an answer as to why these things take place? Never forget that everything is a process. A process for two things. One, to separate the wheat and the tare. Two, deliverance of the saints. It always covers those two specific categories. Always. And if you don't understand the process, sometimes you can be disheartened, even by events in your own life, which you shouldn't. You shouldn't, just like the election. Never forget that God can touch the heart of anybody. You do know that, right? Never forget that God is God. Never forget that. He can touch the heart of anybody. If his desire was to have America or Europe or France or anybody in a specific position at a specific time, and let's say they elected the worst leader ever, do you not know that God can touch the heart of that leader? Turn that person from one thing to another. Never forget that. Never forget that. He can take the best leader and turn that leader into something you never thought you'd ever have. He can do that. He can harden the heart of any leader. That's his choice. It's not ours. It's his. It's based on his prophecies, his declarations, his decrees, and what he sees. Sometimes we forget that. Mankind often will overstep his bounds, believing he has no creator. Let's not be foolish. We do have a creator, a living creator, who's constantly involved in the process of humanity. Never forget that. Most people are losing their minds right now because of the American elections. They have forgotten. God will always dictate the outcome. It does not matter how many mistakes people make. The outcome of the Lord is decreed. Period. So it's up to him. And it doesn't matter if we make the best choice or the worst choice. It matters what the Lord has decreed. It always does. It always does. And people, more and more people, one of the biggest problems is, it really is like people think, they really do believe, it seems, that God is not in existence. That's what it seems like. It seems like people believe that if they don't make the perfect move, everybody's going to perish. I don't like fear. You guys know that, right? So here's what I believe. And I say this by somewhat of a testimony, that regardless of your decision, right? When you are serving the Lord, he will dictate the outcome based on his perfect word. That means, suppose a person who's serving the Lord chose the wrong person. And let's suppose their decision was the final decision. But they chose the wrong person. But in their heart of hearts, they did so thinking they received that instruction from the Most High. I'm here to let you know that the Word of God stands for that person who believes. All things work together for the good of them that love the Lord. Do we forget about these scriptures? These fundamental scriptures. Why is it when the pressure is on, all of a sudden we forget about the Father? Why is it that when the stakes are high, we act like God has no power? Why do we do that? No wonder we're chastised so much. No wonder. That's almost a weakening of faith, isn't it? We forget about narrative. We got to be careful not to lose our anchor, because the Father will yet still deliver his people. Period. Tonight we're going to talk about World War III, but from a perspective of sobriety, meaning not wishful thinking. No. That's not really based on what you can gather right now. No. It'll be based on decrees from the Most High, based on his word. I said it before and I'll say it again. I trust the word of the Lord and the outcome of God's decrees, period. They have never failed. We often fail to remember them. We fail to interpret them. We fail to trust in them, but they have never failed. Never. That's what we're going to get into. Now, this requires a reading in the book of Daniel. You guys ready for this? We'll be reading out of Daniel chapter 7 to begin with. I would ask, right, that as we go through the book of Daniel, that you guys really look into the Word. All too often when you're reading the Word of God, here's what happens. Everybody you heard interpret that specific chapter comes to mind. That can make you miss what the Word is actually saying sometimes. It's okay. You know, your favorite minister and their interpretation, whatever the case is, that's okay if you have that. I'm just asking that you hear what's written in the Word. Then we'll go back and examine it. Okay? Daniel chapter 7 is very important. Understanding what's happening today. It's very important. It's almost like it's almost part of the groundwork for what's happening today. So, Daniel chapter 7:1, in the first year, Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel, had a dream, had a vision of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw a vision. I saw in my vision by night, behold, the four winds of heaven strove upon the great sea. This is a dream, by the way. And the four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one another. Let me pause here. Before anybody starts to interpret anything, God has already given us an interpretation of this. All you have to do is continue to read in the book of Daniel, and the interpretation is on the opposite side. So you don't have to, warp your brain to try to find out what this means. Because the interpretation to all of Daniel's dreams were given by an angel, and they're documented. Okay, most people don't know that, but they're in here. Now we're reading about the dream. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one another. That means different from one another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings therefore plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made to stand upon his feet as a man. And a man's heart was given unto it. And behold, another beast, a second like a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. And the beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in a night vision, and behold, the 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, strong exceedingly. And it had a great iron teeth, and it devoured, breaking to pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and mouth speaking great things. Now, Daniel 7:8, that little horn, is very notable. It is the person most of you are looking for. It is the kingdom that most of you know about. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. That's Daniel 7:9. Did you hear that? I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and his hair as his head was like pure wool. By the way, wool is not straight. Do you guys know what wool looks like? That's a saying, isn't it? That's a lot. It means thick. His hair was like wool. Pure wool. His throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. And a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set. The books were. I beheld to the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed, and given to the burning flame. And concerning the rest of the beast, They had their dominion taken away. Yet their lives were prolonged for a season in time. Can you imagine that? 10 kings whose countries were taken away, yet their lives were prolonged. That was his vision. Now, you can gather a lot from this vision, but I advise all of you right now, we're going into the interpretation of this vision. See, the angel, right? God gives the dream. The angel gave the interpretation. Isn't that awesome? So you don't have to guess about any of these components, because each component of this dream, God gave an interpretation to. Isn't that awesome? In fact, he expanded upon every single element of this dream. This is like the soil of prophecy itself, the prophecies that we are so familiar with. The beginnings of them, right? And they are quite consistent. The same thing was spoken of in the Revelation, same thing spoken of by Jesus. They're quite consistent. And they're spoken of from this point all the way to the end of the Word of God, right? One thing I want you to note, Daniel 7:9, these thrones are going to be cast down. They're going to be cast down. Now stay with me on this. This is Daniel 7:13. Now I saw in night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days. And they brought him near before him. There was given unto him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. Did you hear that? His dominion shall never pass away. That means right now, his dominion stands. Right now, in the midst of this chaos in the earth, right now, in your situation, right now in your uncertainty, his dominion exists right now. It governs everything right now. Make no mistake. Regardless of the darkness you see, God has purposed all of this. All of what you see is being purposed for his declarations. He's bringing everything to a close. You're in the middle of a process. This is part of your deliverance. But his dominion is an everlasting dominion. That means his reign of rule reaches everywhere. We're not just talking earth. We're talking everywhere, everything, all planes. Everything. Not aircraft. Not those planes. Let's say it in a word that you guys understand, because some of you might be young. Every dimension that you can possibly think of is under his dominion, his rule. He is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. For all dominions. All. Spiritual, known, unknown, whatever the case is. And don't ever forget evil. Don't be frightened of evil. Don't you know in the Old Testament it says, when God was talking, he said, I created the evil and the good. So what is evil? Evil is a component that God uses to bring about his decrees. Never forget, you're in his story. This isn't Satan's story. Satan is a character in God's creation. Satan is under full control. Just in case you know, he's like a dog with a leash. The Lord can make him just go totally limp at any given moment. He can stop him from moving. He can undo him. Never forget that. Why does this stuff go on? Because you are given freedom. God creates beings, not as robots, to serve his every need, no, but as beings to choose to be family and serve him by way of love. And there it is. Demons hate that. Demonic entities hate it. They can't stand the fact that angels serve by way of love. Demons hate it. They can't stand it. Do you know that? They can't stand it. They want it to be militant. Demonic entities are quite militant. Who do you think teaches war to mankind? Who do you think taught war to mankind a long time ago? Demonic entities, fallen angels. the ones who rebelled against God. That's why you read later on in the Bible, and they will learn war no more. Demons like to fight each other, just as you like to embrace one another. That's why in your homes, demons cannot survive in the atmosphere of forgiveness and love. They can't do it. If you have even a carnal-natured person, if they have love and forgiveness in their homes, those demonic entities cannot function in that home. They can't. Forgiveness is an authority and a power. And people can do that freely. See, that's something people always take a long time to decide to do. They never knew it was a power. It fights darkness within itself. It sets limitations. Darkness cannot operate in the presence of forgiveness. Can't do it. And unconditional love, that burns them. I mean, it burns them. Like hell's hot, it burns them. They can't exist in that type of atmosphere. They can't function. They can't do it. You want to defeat that darkness in your home? Stand and forgive all. Forgive everything. Stop trying to justify everything and simply forgive it. Stop trying to reason with everything and simply forgive it. Stop doing that. God doesn't say, well, I'm going to forgive their sin because this may have been, or he didn't complicate issues. He simply says, I love them. So I made a way for them to be forgiven, period. It's that simple. You do the same. You squash darkness all around you. That's the key. And if you look in your life, every single time when you chose to forgive, you took the power away from darkness, from aggression and hate. All these things that dark powers draw upon, you destroyed it. But as soon as you came up with a reason to dislike someone, as soon as you came up with a reason to look at someone sideways, you just empowered darkness again to operate. Don't give it power. Don't do it. And did you not know that the Lord said to love your enemies? Well, guess what? If you love your enemies, you've already forgiven them. Isn't that something? So to obey the Lord is to dethrone darkness, period, in your homes. It's that simple. It is not complicated. It's not complicated. It's just that people, they would rather empower a method that they have discovered than to simply obey the living God. Isn't that terrible? In other words, come up with some dumb procedure that does not work. This world is laden with procedures to get rid of darkness, yet this world is turning darker every single day. That makes no sense, does it? So what does that tell you? That these ways are not working. They're not. All right, let's continue. I can start in that area. So after all this was given, I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them and stood by and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me know the interpretation of the things. You see that? Here it comes. Now, let me stop right there. Lord, I love your word, the way it's laid out. It is so funny. Satan would love to have this word be a mystery to all. He would. It's not a mystery. It's not. It's simply not a mystery. It is simplicity. He would love to have this word to be so confusing that nobody can get it. Right? He would. This word is not difficult to understand. It's not based on who you think you are either. This word was formed in the perfection of love itself. This word cannot be controlled. You can't. People can't stand that, so they try to rewrite it to add a bunch of procedures into it. That's not the way it works. They also do things for other reasons, mischievous reasons, right? Take note. This is a word of instruction. It's very wise counsel. It's very accurate in its teachings. It's freely given, without any conditions. And it's very simple. Easy to be entreated. It's just like wisdom from above, right? The same thing the Lord wrote about wisdom. Wisdom is easy to be entreated. That means it can be embraced easily. It's long-suffering, right? Full of patience. It's without regret. If a person cannot understand these things, I'll tell you from experience, it's due to an area in life where they reject love itself. The Bible is only a mystery to those who still question the kingdom. It is not a mystery to those who have that full desire to step foot into the kingdom of God. Not a kingdom they have imagined, but a kingdom that God has established. Many people are looking for an imagined kingdom. All of us would be wise to embrace the established kingdom. All right, now let's go. Daniel 7:17. These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. You guys remember the first thrones he saw? Those beasts that he saw, those four beasts, are four kings, which will arise out of the earth. So what are the four beasts again? He said, these great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. Now, a king has a kingdom. So he didn't say they're four kingdoms. He said they're four kings. Kings. They're four kings. Kings. Follow me on this. A king is a person, is it not? A king is a throne, is it not? He didn't say kingdoms. He said kings. And the reason I'm giving this emphasis, believe it or not, one time I spoke to, it had to be about 5,000 people. And I read this and I said, now, what are these four great beasts? And the people said, they said this at least 4 or 5 times back to back. They said, they are the four kingdoms. No! We read it again. I said, what are the four beasts? They said, four kingdoms. I said, oh my goodness. Then it happened again some years later, and the same thing happened. Like something had control of people's ears. Like something was purposely obscuring what people thought this was. For some reason, they continue to say, these four beasts. Now, what are these four beasts that he saw? What are these four beasts? Anybody? What are these four beasts? At the beginning of the vision, he described these four beasts. He did. And it clearly says there are four kings, right? It does. It says there are four kings. Now, I'm not Mr. Know-it-all either, so don't think that. Right? Don't think that. But it says, four great beasts came up out of the sea, diverse from one another, Daniel 7:3. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. Uh-oh. Did you hear that? Now, Daniel, these four beasts are four kings. Kings. Right? I'm just telling you what the word says. I'm emphasizing what the word says. And the four beasts he saw, the first was like a lion that had eagle's wings, right? The second was like a bear. And it raised up itself on one side and had 3 ribs in its mouth. Uh-oh. Right? The fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, a strong exceedingly, it had great iron teeth and devoured, breaking to pieces, stamped the residue. To the feet, it was diverse from all the other beasts. But these are still kings. These are kings. kings. For some reason, like the leopard. The leopard's a king. A king. King. It's a king. That's very important to note. It's a king. And I know this really fights. It fights everything, but it's important that you understand right now these are kings. Because this has a progressive state where it goes, right? If you think this is anything other than kings, you're not going to get the progression. And then you're going to be off balance, off kilter. You're not going to be quite straight again, okay? These are kings. So let's continue in the interpretation of this, because these are kings. So he's given the interpretation, these great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. Listen, but the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake into pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. That horn that made war with the saints. Right, that one. Remember that horn that made war with the saints. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. Daniel 7:21, highlight that so you won't be afraid of it. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came. Please highlight that. That's called sobriety, not skipping it. See, a lot of people skip this. They won't read it. That's the truth. They won't. It depends on what type audience you speak to. It does. Right? But they have to do what the Lord has given them. I want you guys to see this. Daniel 7:21, I beheld, the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. What horn was this? Do you guys remember what horn that was? That was that little horn with all the eyeballs on it that rose up, of whom 3 fell. 3 fell, and this little horn rises up. It has eyeballs all over it. It has a mouth speaking great things. This horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. It prevailed against them. It prevailed against them. It prevailed against them. See, your imagination will conjure up things. Don't let your imagination in this conversation. Don't do that. There's no room for imagination when we have truth. So get rid of your imagination. Don't imagine what you think happened or could happen. Stop doing that. The Lord is very concise in what this is. Very concise in what this is. Very concise. Now this happens, he's going to prevail against them until what? Until the Ancient of Days comes. And judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. The saints possessed the kingdom. So the saints, the horn that made war with the saints and prevailed against them until the Ancient of Days came. And judgment was given unto the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Who's going through this right now? Who is this happening to? Something just like this is happening right now. Right now it's happening to them. Israel. Something foreshadowing this event is happening to them right now. Daniel 7:23. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth. You guys follow me so far? Listen, because I want you to get this right. Now, in this interpretation, right, in Daniel 7:17, he said, these great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth, right? The four beasts are four kings, correct? Then we get down, and we're talking about the four beasts, the interactions between them and the world and Israel. And then he starts talking about the horn, this little horn, right? This little horn that came up, and before whom three kings fell. And he says what? Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and shall break it into pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. Do you see what's happening here? Do you guys see what's happening here? You have kingship, right? You have kingship over a place. That place is established, and it's dominion. And then out of it, because those kings don't live forever, you have others who rise in authority, who then go and establish other domains. And then out of their domains. So you have a king that rises, they establish a domain. A king that rises establishes a domain. And out of these domains, there arises these horns, these kings, these successors. Kind of like Nebuchadnezzar was a king. He wasn't a nation, he was a king. But he was a standard of all the nations. How? Because he was that head of pure gold. He was a standard, and everything was inferior to him. But out of King Nebuchadnezzar's rule, that nation that he ruled, he established a standard, a type of standard. Then everybody adopted those standards, and guess what happened when King Nebuchadnezzar was gone? They ruled according to those standards. The successor kings are bound by the spirit of the place left by the first king. Do you see that? So a king will establish the spirit of a nation. Successors then rule by that spirit. Do you guys see that? If you can remember that, you can know the spirit of every single kingdom out there. And if you know the spirit of every single kingdom out there, you know exactly who you're dealing with. And if you know who you're dealing with, you know perfectly what to expect and how to navigate. That's called knowledge. You don't have to be lost in the sauce in this world. You can navigate everything. All you have to do is listen to the Word of God. Not become an expert on the Word of God and start putting the puzzles together, but hear what the Lord is saying. Listen to what He gave people before us. And then take that and embrace it. And it can be utilized. And your life will be different. Period. It will be different. But you have to stay out of the realm of imagination and men's imagination. Some of the imaginative things of men seem like they're real until they're not real. It seems like they're going to work until they fall apart. But God's word is consistent. It never fails. But men's imagination fails. Their theories fail all the time. God's word still endures. It still endures. Let's continue. Stay with me on this. Before you jump anywhere else, stay with me on this. Okay, so these 10 horns, the 10 horns, Daniel 7:24, the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High. This is how the saints of the Most High are overcome. He shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until the time and times and the dividing of times. But the judgment shall sit, what is this telling us? Until the Ancient of Days comes. He will prosper. As simple as this. The same thing he just said. And I beheld the same whore make war with the saints and prevailed against them until the Ancient of Days came. See that? He will prevail against the saints until the Ancient of Days comes. Now, many of you read that, you start getting fearful. But he just told you how he's going to prevail against the saints. Did you miss it? Let me give you something to highlight. He just gave us that for free. Thank you, Daniel. Listen, this thing in Daniel 7:25, this little horn, he spake great words against the Most High. Listen, and he shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they will be given into his hand. So how is he going to wear out the saints of the Most High? By changing everything. By changing times and laws. How is this wearing out the saints of the Most High? Because a saint, a real saint, desires the kingdom principles be instilled in everyone in the earth. A real saint believes in Yahshua HaMashiach. So they want the governing of the Messiah to be in the earth. They have a desire for laws to be upright, for policies to be upright. But what do you see right now? You don't see upright policies. You see absolute chaos, and it's almost like nobody has power to overturn them. They have been passing laws of abominations for the last 20 years, and no one has had power to stop them. Because if you're saying, oh yeah, people had power to stop them, then why didn't they stop them? I'll tell you why. They had no power. That's why. They had no power to stop them. They have no power to stop them. Don't fall for the illusion. This is about God's everlasting kingdom and the kingdoms that are in this earth. The only good kingdom is the everlasting kingdom, not these kingdoms in the earth. Don't be fooled thinking that one side is better than the other. Have you lost it? Don't do that. Don't try to say one side is holy. No. Make no mistake. If it's in this earth, you know whose control it's under, period. That's what the Bible narrates. Never in the Bible does it ever say, well, there's a kingdom in the earth that prevailed against the Antichrist and won. That's not what you're reading. No. You read that darkness is going to prevail on this earth until the Ancient of Days comes. That he's going to wear out the saints of the Most High until the Ancient of Days comes. That he will think to change times and laws until the Ancient of Days comes. That's what you've been living in since you've been born. It just did not happen. Since you've been born, this stuff has been happening. Do you hear me? You got to recognize the time you live in. You were born in corruption. Huh? How many... we were born right out of the Great Depression. Corruption. How did that happen? Corruption. That's how it happened. Corruption. You're born at the last hour of the last days. How do you know it's the last hour? Because that's the only time Israel was ever called back to its land. It does not matter who established that. It matters that it was established. God already told us that he moves upon mankind. And mankind does these things. Somebody told me one time, they said, well, the UN General Assembly is not God. They're the ones that, had this orchestrated with Israel. I said, it didn't matter. Doesn't matter. Just like blessings. Where do blessings come from? Do they fall out of heaven? No, they do not. What did the Lord say? Given it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together, running over, shall men give unto your bosom. He didn't say from the clouds. It's going to fall out and you'd fall in your house. That's not what he said. He said, shall men give into your bosom. So what he's doing is he's showing you how he works through his creation. He's telling us this over and over and over again. And when he brings about things, prophetic things, it happens how? Through his creation. Through men. These things come through men. Spirits can't do anything to you directly. No. They need to become physical first. They can't do anything to you directly. They need to become physical first. How do they do this? By warping the minds of those they inhabit. Then that person, whoever it is, starts doing things in the earth that affect the physicality of the earth. That's how it works. Why did the devil make an earth-bound set of kingdoms that looks just like the draconian system or the dragon? Because he can't do anything as a spirit. He cannot. He has to do whatever he does through humanity. So he corrupts, he robs, he steals, he destroys. He does everything he can do to corrupt humanity. Don't let him work through you to your brothers and your sisters. Don't let him work through you. Begin to recognize that he will seek you out to do things through you. He'll cause confusion through you. It's clear to spot a vessel of usage of him. Satan is the author of confusion. Might want to look at your trail or what you're leaving. So now you see this guy wearing out the saints of the Most High. Again, through policies. Look at the policies that have been passed as of late. Rotten to the core. Look at the fight. Some of the arguments between this election are over some of the policies, abortion, transsexuals, all this kind of thing, right? Over these policies that came. Over who's pushing these abominations. That's what they are, abominations. Pure and simple. They're abominations. And yes, I can say that. Somebody asked me, they said, well, wait a minute, you think an abortion is an abomination? I said, yes, I do. Because God did not teach mankind that the smiting of the child in the womb came from one of the fallen. It is written. It's an old document. And it was about abortion. The smiting of the child in the womb was taught by a fallen angel. So yes, it's an abomination because it's an abomination to our Father. Thank God for Jesus Christ. Somebody will say, well, how can people then do that? Because God knows the corruption we live in. He already knows that. Somebody say, what about contraception? Well, people need to keep their potatoes in their pockets is what they need to do, right? But they won't. They're going to keep corrupt. They're going to keep fornicating. They're going to keep adulterating, doing everything they can do until the Ancient of Days comes. The saints cannot prevail in these things until the Ancient of Days comes. But when the Ancient of Days comes, he's going to put down every single abomination that's ever been on this earth, and that will be the end of that. He's going to turn over everything. See, if we could do it by ourselves, there'd be no need for God to come. He would simply empower us to take this whole world. He would. But he's coming. And when he comes, he will destroy every ounce of darkness that's ever been on the face of the earth. He will come, and the judgment will sit. So that means those who support and do such things are going to keep doing it until the Ancient of Days comes. And when the Ancient of Days comes, he's going to catch them unawares. You know where they're going, where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. He's given them time. No one has that excuse. Not one soul has an excuse that they didn't have enough time, that they didn't have time to consider all this, that, and the other. Nope. No. That's why they make so many contraceptives, because more and more people agree to be adulterous. People can't control themselves. They can't keep their potatoes in their pockets, gentlemen. I'm sorry. Listen, a woman cannot seduce a man successfully until a man says yes. Period. Unlike other people, right? Here's what I believe. I believe the buck stops with us, gentlemen. That's what I believe. God made us in a specific way that if we were to obey him, right, this earth would not be so lawless. It's when we look away, when we refuse to do things, when we start giving in to weaknesses, That's when things go wrong. That's when they go wrong. Lord have mercy. If we'd only assume responsibility. Because children, well, they can't be made unless men agree. Just like sin. Sin of itself is nothing. Sin must be agreed to become sin. You must agree to it in order to bring it about. So that means humanity has the power to bring wickedness into this world. How so? Through sin. Once you agree with it, then it's born. Sin has to be born. If you don't agree to it, it cannot be born. Do you know that? That's an actual scripture. Just in case you didn't know that. If you don't agree to it, sin cannot be born. That's an actual scripture. Here in COT, we're going to become quite controversial because I'm telling you right now, there are scriptures and nobody has ever read it. When I start reading certain scriptures, I can almost guarantee you guys are going to say, oh my, there's no way that's in the Bible. Yes, it will be. God is very direct. But people read and skip over things and read some because they don't want to read the controversial part. Like, he will wear out the saints of the Most High. How many people do you hear read that? Huh? How many people have you heard read that? How many? You don't hear people reading that, do you? Why not? Why not? Because that's sobriety. It's not true if that's skipped over, is it? That's half a story. You know what happens when you have half a story? You have a smile on your face, hoping for something incomplete. That means you know the good part, right? It's like receiving a dessert. You get a dessert and all they tell you is vanilla cake. And it looks beautiful when you get it. What they didn't tell you was that an octopus is in the center of it. Right? They got me over there in Korea one time. They said, oh, you got to try this kimchi. Oh, yeah? What is it? Oh, it's just cabbage. Get it. They didn't tell me the truth. They didn't tell me that they put that cabbage in the ground and wait till it ferments and spoils and everything else. Then they jerk it out and cook it. They didn't tell me that part. They said it's just cabbage. So I was all hands on deck, full speed, going into with my fork to get a taste of that. I put that in my mouth. I think my mouth ran off my face and went somewhere else. I did not expect that. I know with the word, we can have a good expectation if we listen to the God's truth. But if we live our lives by half a story, we're going to spend the rest of our... Well, a person who only listens to half of the story, those are the same ones that cannot hear the whole truth anymore. They will shut their ears, just like the Lord said. They will shut their ears to God's correction. They will shut their ears to the whole word. They only want to hear the good stuff. And those are the very people that God said will be destroyed from among his people. Because they're poisonous. They're not sober. They have no desire to be sober. And they will be removed from among God's people. To operate from truth is to know the whole thing. When you know the whole thing, even the bad side, it's just like me. I don't know a person. If all I know is the goody two-shoes of a person, I don't know that person, and there's no way in the world I can trust that person. When I see a person fall flat on their face, when I see them lose control, when I see their weakness, then I know that person. When I say, there that person is. I don't know a person if I just know the strengths of a person. That's useless to me. I need to know the weakness of a person, what they're prone to. And when I know that, then I can say I know them. I cannot say I know anybody. All I've seen is the good? No. I don't know a person like that. When somebody presents the Mr. Goody Two-Shoes side, you don't know that person. You don't know that person at all. That's why many of us have been tricked. Oh, yes, I got the perfect person in my life. 5 years later, that was not the perfect person. Well, why are you saying that? Oh, because I didn't know this. No. You didn't want to know it. You didn't want to know it. You saw a person and you imagined what they could be. You never saw the person. You didn't look at the person. You didn't see what that, you didn't want to acknowledge what the person was right in front of your face. You tried to see the good half all the time, trying to turn that person into your imagined person, and you never saw what was before you. And then one day, when nothing changed, you saw the person before you and you said, I don't like it. That's what happened. When you saw the real person, you said, I gotta go. Don't live your life by imagination. Don't do that. That's not fair to the other person either. People are heartbroken like that. Many men are heartbroken like that. Do you know that? Because many women will automatically imagine a guy to be this individual. And gentlemen, it's up to you to say, don't think I'm not your knight in shining armor that just rode in on a horse. Freely speak to them. That's how you test them. You say, well, I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do that. Can't you still like me? Can't do this either. Can't do that. I'll blow this up. I'll mess it up, burn down the kitchen. Can't do that. You want to go forward with this? This is going to blow up in your face. This will surely happen. I have a weakness for this. But I still want to go forward. I bet that changed some things, huh? When you get to know a person over time, that's when you can create a bond. That's what makes a bond so strong. You know that? When you suffer together, that's the only time a bond is truly formed. That's why military bonds and bonds of cohesion of people who suffer together like firefighters and police officers and folks like that, that bond is so strong that nobody else can understand why that's strong. That bond is so strong. Why? Because you suffered together. Because you saw each other's weaknesses. And in the weakness of the other person, you said, you know what you said? You said, that's still my brother. That's still my sister. That's what you did. You said, that's still family. Even in these dark times, that's still family. Well, let me tell you something. If you can forge something at the worst moment of your life, then everything else is gravy. It really is. It's gravy. Just like very soon, you're going to know everybody to your left and to your right. Because I'll tell you this, you will only know the people around you in a time of crisis. Then you get to see the real person. And those folks you think are dependable, you may see them run away. And those you think are cowardly and you can't trust them, they're going to have your back. Then and only then will you know who is who. You don't know who's who now. So long as people get what they want reasonably. You do not know who is who. You know why? Because humans, we're all actors. We put on a smile, a fake face all the time based on whatever the arrangement is, whatever the meeting is. We put on a fake face. We know we smile when there's no happiness inside. We know we embrace when we don't even know the person. We say false things like, I missed you. You don't even know the guy's name. Huh? Oh, I'm just so happy to see you. And you never thought about the guy until that moment. We know we're full of those things, and we already know this. But when crisis comes, all that stops. That's when a person says, well, I have no time for these pleasantries. When a person is attempting to survive, they stop playing games. When resources are low, they stop playing games. When the trial comes, people stop playing games. And that's when you're going to know who is who. You do not know who is who right now. You don't, but you will. You will know who is who soon. And no one will have a secret. No one has secrets in a time of crisis. Do you know that? No one. I've been in the worst of moments. And in those worst of moments, people start saying the weirdest things. Then they come back after it's all over saying, look, I didn't mean to say that. How did they do damage control? I didn't mean to say that, to do this and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, you did. You cannot say something that's not within you. That's a principle Jesus gives us. That's a principle the Lord gives us. It must be in you to come out of you. Or it's not going to come out. Period. But we'll know. We will know in those days. They will surely come. They always come. Always. So, back to Daniel. Wait a minute, back to Daniel. Daniel 7:26. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and destroy it until the end. To consume and destroy the darkness, the bad, the evil. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom. And all dominions shall serve and obey him. Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations much troubled me. My countenance changed in me. But I kept the matter in my heart. He was sickened by this. He was sickened by this. This is only the beginning of the formation of prophecy dealing with the times we live in now. And I read this to let you know, and this is like an overall decree, right? The 4 kings are going to rise out of the earth. That 4th king is going to establish something of which 10 kings are going to rise out of. And a little horn among them, and it will subdue 3 kings. And it will make war against the saints. Right? I'm going to show you this world that we live in. The world has had the rise and fall of many kingdoms, correct? But out of one specific kingdom, prosperity has been happening in the earth. Some of the ancient kingdoms didn't make it so well. But one kingdom flourished. It flourished. It gave way to the modern world we know today. But it did. And out of the modern world that we know today, something will surely rise. A little horn with eyes all over it. Now, it's funny how it has eyes all over it. Because we live in a world right now where observation is possible everywhere. Where if a person was really sitting at the console, at the top of the world, right, at the highest seat that the world offers, they would be able to hear and see everything. Also, we have in position all the mechanisms for a mouth to speak great things and blasphemies. It's called modern-day communications. Whatever a person says at one location can be broadcast all over the world. A mouth speaking great things and blasphemies where everybody hears it must reach everybody's ears. That infrastructure is set up now. Although in 1 month it'll go directly into your head. I mean directly into your head. And you guys do understand that telepathy right now is real. You know that's real, right? Not telepathy like you're trying to concentrate and all this, that, and the other. No, telepathy through technology is real. Is functioning right now. Field tests are over. The devices are coming out next month. Anywhere from November to December, you'll see devices available on the market where you can think a thing and somebody else can receive that thought. You know that, don't you? That seems far-fetched until that device is on the market. Right now, the BCI, the perfected BCI devices are on the market right now. Right now, they've been out on the market. You can control your computer without your hands right now. The language of the brain has been mapped. It's out there right now. You know in the Bible when it says he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand? This agenda was put forward in a very specific way. And every time these types of agendas go forward, they never ever fail. I've been noticing that with quite a few projects here lately. So we live in those days. That means the medical field is going to change, period. You guys do understand that with thought and feedback, neurologically, you can stop all pain in an instant. Believe it or not, pain is important because pain alerts us to manage certain areas of our bodies. If we did not have pain, all of us would have died a long time ago. We wouldn't live long. We'd do dumb things, right? Real dumb things. And there are people out there with a disorder right now, which means they sense no pain whatsoever. It's a disorder that causes them to interpret pain signals in a very different way, so they don't feel pain at all. That means they could literally chop an arm off and they would not feel pain. They wouldn't react to it, no pain, no anything. Now, that's very difficult to live like that, though. It's very difficult to live like that because your body constantly alerts you to areas of problems, right? I mean, more than you know, it alerts you to areas of problems. You may feel an itch somewhere. That itch can be the beginning of an infection, so you scratch. Then the itch goes away. Now, what you don't know is you just brushed away some deadly bacteria that you knew nothing about. That small itch saved your life. Most people don't know that. But if you have no pain sensory or no sensory issues like that, you don't have that ability. You'd never have that itch. Never. That means you would have to carefully inspect your body every single day so that you won't get infected every single day. There's something that could potentially infect you guys every single day. But through these reactions, these old pinches and itches and squirms and all these things, you get rid of it. Get rid of it. If you could not feel that, you'd be dead in a week's time. So you wouldn't be here on earth at all. And that would defeat the purpose. So pain is part of a feedback loop that keeps you alive. Pain does. It keeps you alive. I did teach a small trick about pain. Once you are responsible with your own body and you take control, you can take control of those pain signals and interpret them a different way, but you have to ensure that you're responsible with all your nerves, with the neurology in your body. You don't have to have pain the way you do. You don't. It's a feedback mechanism, and it will get louder when you're not paying attention to it. You have to complete the circuit. But that's another subject. Does that work? You better believe it works. Works big time. Can anybody do that? Yes. But here's the issue. Everybody won't do that. Do you know why? Because people won't listen. If you're already an expert, which most people are on their bodies, unfortunately, you won't adopt a different way of doing anything. That's the truth. Listen, I'll be back here at COT in just a minute to finish up this conversation. I'll be right back in just a few minutes. Okay, everybody, I am back. I know that was a short break. I am back. Listen, here it is. Here it is. For all of you guys that stayed, here's why all this was read. I'm glad you stayed around this most difficult part, but this gives answer to something very important. Now, we just read of how he's going to wear out the saints the Most High until the Ancient of Days comes. We just read that. We also see in the world how corrupt it is. Right? Now, here's the part where I attempt to show you something you might want to know. What good is it? See, a lot of people skip this because they'll say, well, even if we know darkness is taking everything over, this, that, and the other, we don't want to read this because a lot of people say, what's the use in upholding righteousness? Right? What do you mean, what's the use? So let me share this with you. Okay, this part where I have to really get control of myself. Every day of my life, I see corruptness in this world. Every day. I have to put up with things that most people don't put up with. Right? I'm not giving in to darkness. Not doing it. Because this life is an opportunity to choose what family you truly belong to. And I've chosen. What about you guys? I'm not one that goes back and forward. I'm not that person. I'm not a person who's going to go back and forward. It doesn't matter to me how much darkness gets in this world. To the day I'm no longer on this earth, I'll stand for the side of Christ. Period. I've chosen. That's what this life is for. Can't you see that? See, a lot of people don't want to address that because people have a problem in choosing a side. Let me, newsflash, this is your opportunity to choose a side. This is your test to prove what side you have chosen. So when darkness comes, you're going to notice people flip-flop throughout life. They're not choosing. We're not double-minded people. We're not unstable in all of our ways. This is your opportunity to choose. And once you choose, then what do? Let me tell you something. What you love, you fight for. You know that? You do. Wherever your treasure is, there your heart is. And you will fight for it. Period. No matter what comes. It does not matter if this world was ruled by darkness, which it is. Right? I choose the side of Christ. All the way, not halfway, all the way. And every day of my life, I already know. Because I've chosen. I know what side I stand on. I know what I stand against. See, a lot of people don't want to choose. They don't want that. They just want the evil to go away so they can kick their feet up and live in paradise. Now, that's a failure of choosing. See, a lot of people don't want to choose. They do not want to choose. They adapt to anybody who wins. That's not who I am. That's a harlot, by the way, who does that. You know that, don't you? That's a harlot who does that. A harlot will take the side of the one who wins. That's a harlot. God is not raising us to be harlots. We're not swapping sides because somebody is more powerful than the next guy. No. This is about choosing a side, and life is the crucible. Life will tell the truth. Life will make you tell the truth of what side you have chosen. That's why I don't complain. I know what the Lord is doing. I know what this darkness is for. Every day is a crucible. And every day I'm here, I'm going to choose the side of Christ. That's why many people are worried about falling and looking bad. I'm not worried about that. No. I'm making an active choice every single day. Now listen, let me give you the problem we have. Let me just show you what I'm talking about here. As with most people who choose Christ, they choose the good, but we have a condition. We get so used to darkness that we become laxed in our fight. Let me show you what I mean. During this election, a lot of people are protesting the evil that certain things bring, clearly, right? They are. But they're not protesting. They're not protesting the evil right beside them. Here's what I mean by that. If a new policy is passed today, right, like a brand new, a weird abortion policy where you can abort a child after it's born, right, then anybody with a sensible mind who's in the light will say, no way, Jose. That's ridiculous. They'd protest that, right? We would protest that without a doubt because that would be murder. We would say that is murder. That's going too far. This is not the Lord's way. We're going to fight for righteousness. We'd protest, right? We would protest, absolutely stand against it. But we won't stand against the darkness that's already here. This is what I'm saying. See, you have a lot of people that will stand for posturing. Hear me on this. But every single year that goes by, they forget the darkness beside them. And what do I mean? How is it that people can buy voice during an election? Now, before the election, listen, before this election, during the beginning of Joe Biden's presidency, I didn't hear any protest about abortion. I did not. I didn't hear any protests until it became an election issue. Then all the fighting started. Just telling you the truth. Now, people will do that during an election. But let me tell you this. Who's protesting the bars? You can't tell me that the righteous agree with bars. I don't agree with a bar. I do not. But I write lots of letters, too. I do. Because I make a stand for what I believe in. Often to my own hurt, but I do it anyway. See, I still think about the bars. I do. I still think about television. I still think about radio and the filth on that stuff being just shoved down people's throats. I don't forget about them. I'm not one of those who would just sit up there and see a new subject and due to another reason, bring it up as a protest. No. Darkness is darkness. I don't agree with nudity. I don't agree with cursing. I don't agree with the garbage they show on television. I don't agree with the songs they write. Even some of the Christian songs have become garbage. I don't believe in that either. I do not. I'm against it. Comedies dealing with my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and the Holy Ghost? Absolutely not. People got mad at me with that when they found out I did not like Medea. I don't like that stuff. That's not funny to me. So let me ask you this. How is it that people during an election cycle can all of a sudden stand up and talk about abortion, but they don't mention anything else? Huh? Life is a crucible. It is a thorough crucible. And what family you stand for. You're being tried every single day. And the results of your life and your actions are the true choice you have made. You can say everything. How you are living your life is what you have chosen. I've noticed something when I don't have enough courage to stand up for righteousness in a specific area, then I'm not choosing that area. Only when I have the courage to make a full stance in an area of righteousness and put everything I am towards it, that's when I have chosen it. You have not chosen something you're just talking about. You have indeed chosen what you're living. We can talk all day, and we all know that all of us are born actors, negotiators, and everything else. We're living our lives. It's what we're choosing. I know a lot of people in this day and age, and I caution about this and call me old-fashioned, but fornication is a big deal. That's a big deal. All of us know the consequences of fornication. Some people have gotten so used to it, they've taken it to a brand new level. When you sit back and examine the things in your life, the cautions God gave, then look at the consequences of your own spirit. That's when you begin to see it. In other words, when you discover the darkness these things bring, you too will stand against it. If you choose your Father's kingdom, if you choose your Father's way, it's your choice. You're not going to be forced to choose your Father. You're not going to be forced to choose the devil. It's your choice. But I'm just telling you, doing things for posterity is not making a choice. No. Life is set up in a way that every era of your life, you're making a choice. That's why your life goes the way it goes. That's why people wish and hope all the problems go away, and they will never go away. Why? Because you're making a choice every day of your life. And guess what? That's what I don't complain about. I know I'm making a choice. That's pretty obvious the way the Lord set this up. We're making a real choice. I have no problem with that because I choose him. So when things come, I'll choose him again. When something else comes, I'll choose him again. And I will continue to do that. Whatever comes. That's why I don't complain against it, because I know it's coming anyway. We were just told that this thing is going to wear out the saints of the Most High until the Ancient of Days comes. Now, a lot of people, they get disheartened by that. They get sad. How could you get sad at that? This is the Father's decree. God decreed this. He's not telling us a news article of some bad news that's going to happen. This is his decree. He has a reason for doing this. Why do we keep reading this as though this is not supposed to happen? Because that's what people are doing. They have forgotten this is what God decrees. Your Father in heaven is making this happen. In fact, in Revelation, what does it say in Revelation about those 10 kings? 10 kings who have received no kingdom as of yet, but will 1 hour with the beast. For God will put it in their hearts to give their kingdom over to the beast. God does this. God is allowing, God decreed this. God is the reason the devil still exists. He is the reason demons still exist. He is the reason that fallen angels still exist. If he didn't want them to exist, they would not. All this is for us. All this is for the crucible. All this is for the choice we're making, because the choice we're making is a truthful one with witnesses. Your life is a witness, and every element in your life is a witness to your choice. This is for real. This is a real choice. With everything that comes is an opportunity to choose your Father's way. You can't just say, I agree with the kingdom and that's it. Nope, he's going to show you the elements of the kingdom. Do you agree in the forgiveness of others? Even when they take full advantage of you. Uh-oh. Haven't you noticed that everything Jesus told us you're being tried by? Haven't you noticed that? That's an opportunity for the righteous. Because, see, when you read in the book of Matthew, when you start reading the Sermon on the Mount, and the Lord is essentially telling you to do good to those who despitefully use you and persecute you, how can you obey that? Unless they come and despitefully use you and persecute you. See, I don't know about you, but I choose to obey the Lord. But I need my opportunity to do so. That's what life is. God help you when you don't, if you don't like what the Lord is doing, you don't like his ways, period. Most people don't know his ways because most people don't teach this way. This is not a mistake happening in your life. Not one area of your life is a mistake. Life is carefully orchestrated so that you can give your answer. So when somebody comes up to you and smacks you on the left cheek, you have an opportunity to choose what path, what kingdom you're choosing. Huh? When somebody comes up and they despitefully use you and persecute you and say all manner of evil against you for his name's sake, you have an opportunity to respond. Can't you see it? You're not a punching bag. You know that, don't you? It takes a very weak person. If somebody came up to me and they literally smacked me on the left cheek, do you not realize how much it would take to hold back? My hands, feet, forehead, and everything, I would headbutt a person who did that. It would take a lot to hold that back. It really would. It takes strength. You think obeying the Lord is easy? No, you have to fight your flesh. You have to make up your mind. You have to choose a side. It's so easy to fight in the natural. It's very difficult to subdue your flesh to maintain righteousness, isn't it? Everybody knows that when you turn to a certain age, your hormones are jumping all over the place. I don't know why people ignore that. Huh? Like they don't know what teenagers are thinking. And even young adults, we know what we're doing, but there comes a point. Are you going to obey righteousness or continue to give in to the flesh? What are you going to do? Because trust me, Satan has set up a world that will amplify every flesh desire that you have. Your friends will say, hey, come on, man. Let's go. Let's go out. It's harmless. Let's go here. Let's go there. That's why I don't enjoy doing anything the world offers. I do not. I know what it's there for. I don't care how innocent it looks. All you have to do is ask yourself, what's the origin and the purpose of this concerning the spirit? That's all you have to do. And you'll begin to see it too. See, most people, like I just said, they'll protest abortion, but they've forgotten about the bars. Huh? No. They'll even go into the bar and get a drink after they protest the abortion. Are you kidding? The gateway is the bar. Is it not? What about the filth on TV? What about the songs that influence, that music that speaks directly to your soul? You don't think witchcraft is involved? When you feel a certain way, you're down and out, oh, I got to hear my song. Of course you do. There are demons assigned to those songs on purpose. Didn't the Lord warn us? Through these subtleties, Satan comes into your life. Somebody said, is it a sin to take medicine? No, it is not a sin. Thank God for doctors, of whom God set in place when we have areas that we cannot have no faith in. There are sometimes you can't have faith that you're going to be healed. Truth be told, I know people would say otherwise. I'm just telling you what the facts are. Thank God he set doctors in place. Now listen, it's your responsibility not to abuse these things that men have that come through men. Anything can be turned into an evil thing. Do you know that? Anything can be turned into, because Satan is still here, things can be perverted. So something meant for your good can be utilized for your destruction. That's up to you to be responsible. That's all up to you. No, it is not a sin. Thank God that he put people there in those areas in your life where you can't have the proper faith or even the mind to deal with something. Thank God he put people in place. But again, it's up to you. It's up to you. It's just like wine. Drinking wine is not a sin. To drink to the point of drunkenness is a sin. Why is it a sin? Because you're out of your character. You're no longer in control of your own faculties. You throw caution to the wind. You start saying anything and everything. You go along with everything. Now you can't remember what you did. Wine is good for the body. Anything in excess would cause intoxication, saturation, which is no good for you. It's like strawberries. They taste real good, right? Do you not know that strawberries can also kill you? You know that? Water, life-giving. Did you know that water can kill you? Anything in excess, when you're saturated with it, can destroy you. Anything can. And if you allow it to, things can be used for evil. You have a responsibility with everything you do. That's totally up to you. It's not the doctor's fault what they offer. Why would you expect the devil to offer you something good? So when it comes to pharma, right, you have those who try to help people and those who try to help themselves. You know that some darkness is involved with it. You have a responsibility. You can't lose control and then blame them. That would be like you blaming the devil. Well, I blame the devil. Why? Because the devil is evil. Well, he's supposed to be evil. That's who he is. He's evil. But you don't have to listen to Satan, do you? Huh? Why would a person waste their time calling the devil evil? We have a responsibility. We're the ones that draw the line and say no more. We are. That's up to us. That's our responsibility. Evil will be there if you ever choose something evil. The Lord encourages us to choose what is righteous. Now, because he is a righteous Father, he's not going to give you fake evil. He's going to give you the real deal. It's going to be out there. It's waiting. So if you ever choose it, that's what you'll have. Likewise, the righteousness he offers is real. It's not some fake thing. It's real. Did you hear me? It's real. Why do people get afraid of the darkness? Because it's real. They find out it's real. Well, let me tell you something. So is the light. So is righteousness. So is Christ. Don't settle for the imaginary Christ. Don't do that. Because I'll tell you something. When you face what you face in this world, that's real evil. So then don't settle for half of righteousness. No. If the Lord said that you would end up a specific way, having done a specific thing, then accept nothing else than the Lord's word. Don't let an imposter in your life that will give you half of something. Don't do that. If you caught what I said, that means you've been set up to experience every good thing the Father said you can have. You already know that you can experience the evil. So don't focus your mind on that. You already know that. Focus your mind on this. If God said that you're going to be a specific way, then accept nothing less. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Let your choices be solid. And whatever you choose, don't flip-flop. Don't do that. Don't flip-flop. Because many of you, right, the stagnant issues we have in life come from no demonstration. I know something. That when the Lord delivers a person, they never forget it. Never. You are meant to have that demonstration in your life. So approach your life knowing what's happening. You're choosing. The Lord told you he sets before you life or death. Doesn't he? He set something before you. That's called your life. That's what life is. Life are these choices. They are set before you. You can't even get away from them. Many of us have tried. It doesn't work, does it? We don't want to have to choose all the time. But we're not children forever. And when you mature, it's time to put away childish things. Understand what life is. Understand those decrees of the Father so you can understand the Middle East. And you won't find yourself protesting what God's decrees are, but you'll find yourself choosing righteousness in the middle of the blackest black. That's what you'll do. You'll stand among darkness just like King David. That's when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death and fear no evil. That's when that happens. That's when the decree of your Father is over your life. That's why life is the way it is. And I'll tell you something. If you expect life to be a paradise, I've seen people like that. When they expect that, they're upset and depressed every day of their lives. You know why? Because they're looking for something that will never be. The Lord has told us what life is. He has demonstrated to us what life is. Why do people continue to try to make it something else? Because if you're looking for life to be a paradise, You're going to be depressed. When you see it for what it is, you're going to find joy. Do you know why? Because you can choose your Father's way every day of your life. You'll find that every day is a choice. And when you make that choice and stand on that choice, you're going to start growing in that choice. That's how the kingdom of God is born within you. That's how it's established within you. That's how you become unmovable. Then you experience the real deal. Then your faith can never be tampered with. Then you become a different person. Then your weaknesses fall away. Why? Because Christ will abound in you. Now you stepped into obedience. Now you become an experiencer of God's deliverance. And that's when you tell somebody else in their weakest moment, the Father will yet deliver you. That's when you encourage other people. Why? Because you walk encouraged. You'll be a walking encouragement to everybody. Why? Because you experienced his deliverance. Because you'll know that you know that you know that his righteousness is right. That his goodness is good. That's when nobody can hurt your feelings anymore. Because you will have found your family. And you will belong. This is for real. This is an opportunity. So understand what the Lord has decreed, and don't be afraid of it. Understand what life is. Stop trying to change it into something the world is encouraging you to change it into. But accept what it is and see the opportunity before you. You want the joy of the Lord? Walk in the Lord's way. Many are missing joy because they've been walking in a different way. Do that. Now, I'm not going to tie up your time anymore, everybody. We see that first part coming, right? We know what's happening in the Middle East. That will continue to grow, and it's almost like something just eating and chomping away, decaying the entire time. It is expanding and growing, just like the Lord decreed. Soon the world will fully turn against Israel. You'll know that moment, because even you will feel it in your flesh. Even you will feel it in your flesh. There's no way you'll be blind to it. You're going to feel it in your flesh strongly. That's when you stand up spiritual. Folks, listen. We'll see you guys here shortly. Later on. God bless each and every one of you. Always. We'll see you guys next time right here at the Council of Time. Remember, your Father has mapped out everything. When you choose him, you choose well. You do. You're born for that path of righteousness. You are. Why do I say that? Because you believe in Christ. That's why. Kennedy has a question. Can you give an explanation of Revelation 7, 8 through 12? The beast that thou sawest was not, shall ascend on the bottomless pit, shall go into perdition. They that dwell on the earth shall wonder whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. When they behold the beast that was not, yet is. And here's the mind which hath wisdom, the 7 heads, the 7 horns, 5 kings. Yes. That's what we just talked about. Now the beast that was and is not, yet is. Right? It shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, go forth into perdition. This is what will come out of the earth and enter into an earthly vessel. We're going to reign upon the earth. To go into perdition is to go into doom or destruction. In other words, his way is going to be doom and destruction. That is the little horn with many eyes. The 10 kings who have received no kingdom as of yet. They're going to give their power over to the beast, for God has put it in their hearts to fulfill his will. So the 10 kings that are sitting, that nobody has ever seen yet, they have received no kingdom as of yet. They'll likely have that authority through proxy. It'll be a wartime situation or conflict, and they will give their power over to the beast, thus fulfilling what we see in the book of Daniel. When they go into Jerusalem and set up the abomination of desolation, they collectively are all those who have indignation against the Holy Covenant. You're starting to see the initial formation of that right now. There are 28 nations involved against Israel directly right now. 59 more are right around the corner. And that number is going to grow, right? The USA understands this, and so we have to set up defenses in certain areas. They put that on the news to explain certain movements because you have people with children who are in the armed services. But don't believe the numbers. Don't worry about the numbers. For some reason, America continues to do the right thing. Doesn't matter the rhetoric of what people say. It doesn't matter. This is the fourth time we have sent people to Israel to shore up Israel. The fourth time, not the first. Not the first. See, there's a real story behind this, and there's the story that's meant to stir you up and to get you politically charged against one side or for the other. Don't fall for that nonsense. Let the Lord guide you in your choice, and you do have a choice. Whether you believe it or not, if you're in the nation of America, you also have a responsibility and an opportunity. See, because even if you don't vote, you're still supporting one or the other. Just so you know that. Hope you know that. Anyway, the outcome of that is still upon the Father. Remember, he can change the heart of anybody. But the formation of things in the world, it's inevitable. Things are inevitable. We're close to yet another turn in the era of this earth. We are. Now, personally, I believe World War III has already begun. And the reason I say that is because we've been in conflict for some time. The death toll has been rising continuously for years. This year alone, 2024, has risen to an obscene number. Not only that, but support elements for that war in the Middle East have also grown. Not only that, but conflicts have broken out basically worldwide. Before World War II was declared to Americans, there was a World War II that existed. We were drawn into it by Pearl Harbor, but the war had been ongoing. When America got involved, bigger players got involved and expanded, right? That's all. See, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like if you're in a neighborhood and you hear sirens and you hear all this ruckus around you, but you look out your front door, you don't see anything on your street. You'll go back inside and say, well, that's far away from here. Let me go to sleep. Now, what you won't know is a riot erupted in that neighborhood, but because it's not on your street, you'll always say, it's not bothering me, so then it's not as bad as, everybody is saying. You'll only declare it's bad when it hits your front door. Okay? That's how that works. In America, but we never acknowledge anything until it hits our front door. We'll never acknowledge anything. Then when it hits our front door, we'll say, oh, boy, it's worse than what we thought, so we're going to upgrade this. Now, that doesn't mean it all of a sudden becomes a war when America upgrades it. It means that America is stubborn a lot. The leadership is stubborn a lot. They don't want to recognize things around the world. They don't want to. Unfortunately, events are changing fast, and soon they'll have no choice. Through committal and loss, we'll have no choice. This conflict will take a very different turn. I'm telling you right now, there are weapons involved in this conflict that many of you just simply don't understand. In fact, I'm going to give you some foresight. When you learn of one weapon, the strongest of you will fill up with tears. No matter how tough you think you are, you're going to fill up with tears. The nature of some of these weapons makes one question, why did God even allow men to come up with something like that? Why did he allow it to be made here? It'll make your eyes fill up with tears. But that you'll find out. Then you'll know the nature of warfare is nothing of what you thought it was. In that moment, almost all the foundations of trust that you have now will be broken. And great uncertainty will trouble your hearts. So I'm telling you, before it ever happens, stay yourselves upon Christ. No matter what you hear, see, witness, or become a part of, stay your hearts upon Christ. Folks, God bless each of you. How soon will I be at our front doors? Sooner than any of us would ever be able to deal with it. That's all I give you right now. Listen, even right now, you're right in the middle of something. Right now, you're in the middle of something. It's just not well understood. But it will be. It will be. In those times where things are not known all the way. Every day of your life still holds an opportunity. For that. Folks, listen, I'll be back. Keep your questions. We'll get those answered tomorrow. We're going to have a Q&A tomorrow along with something else as it unfolds. And I'll certainly be back tomorrow, Lord willing. God bless each of you. I'm going to see you next time right here at the Council of Time. God bless. COT's base of operations is right here at the councilofTime.com. COT has no other outlet or venue. These are other folks who will rebroadcast. Anything COT does is by the main page here at the councilofTime.com.